So, we're getting started in woodworking. I'm Tim and welcome back to The Average Woodworker. And you want to know where to go from here after you get your brain right. You know how to use that tape measure, you know how to mark. Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about woodworking and understand, because the tools that you're going to use and some of the tools that you're going to purchase is going to depend on what you want to make. Okay, in woodworking, there's some that it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to have like screwdrivers and maybe hammers and things like that. But let's talk about making. There's a lot of different terms out there. We have makers, maker spaces, we have hackers, we have woodworkers, we have carpentry or carpenters, and we have joiners and stuff like that. So let's get started. First of all, makers. That's kind of a social term that's been coined up for, I don't know, at least 6-7 years or beyond that. And it encompasses pretty much everything. But a lot of times when you hear makers, you hear maker spaces. And we're really looking at, in the most part, a lot of 3D CAD type stuff and working with laser printers, CNCs, and especially 3D printers and that type of thing. But makers encompass everything. It encompasses metalworking, woodworking, I think even Legos and drawing, ceramics, anything that you make. So it's more of a social term that is kind of over an umbrella for pretty much everything. And then we get into carpentry. You say, okay, what's the difference between carpentry and woodworking? Well, in carpentry, we have framers, those people that build your houses and other things. They're dealing with rough carpentry. They're not as interested in getting something as precise as what we might do in making a piece of furniture. But they need to be precise, because an eighth inch off here, an eighth inch off there, next thing you know, we're an inch and then we're a foot off. And when I took trades in college years ago, even though it was construction and we're dealing with framing, that structure, we could not be off. And if it was an eighth inch off or 16th inch off, hey, go and do it again, bring it back. And so we get into those things of, we have formed carpentry, we have finished carpenters, we have cabinet makers, we have all that type of stuff. And all of that encompasses carpentry, just like woodworking. When we hear woodworking, and if you kind of look up the term, it talks about joining wood, and that's where the term joiner comes from. We don't use that quite as much here in the United States, although there's a big union. I think it's the biggest union out there that encompasses joiners in part of their title. But you'll hear joiners more from overseas locations like in Australia, England, and those places, maybe Canada. And but here in the United States, we hear woodworking more so. But it comes down to joining wood. And when we're doing that, again, we can join wood in flats to make a table, to make a butcher block, to make a cutting board. We can make boxes. We can make very complex types of pieces by joining wood using all different types of fasteners. And we'll talk about fasteners in another video. But when it comes down to getting started in woodworking, and you're looking at buying tools, and we're looking at spending some money in tools, and you're saying, what is it do I need to get into woodworking? First of all, you need to think about, hey, what is it that I am going to make? Am I going to make some real fine furniture? And we're probably not going to do that if we're first starting off. We might want to start off making something like some birdhouses, some boxes, things like that to get our skills up. And we're going to need to be able to buy some tools. I would really discourage somebody that has no experience in using tools to go out and spend a lot of money on tools, especially power tools, okay? And we can find a lot of tools that we can use and we can refurbish at different, that are used from different sites, yard sales, different online type of sites that we can go to. And we can get some halfway decent hand tools, fairly inexpensive, from some of the bigger box stores and various places, that we don't have to put a lot of money into this. The other is if we get into power tools and you do not have experience with power tools, or you don't have a lot of experience, especially using some of the very high RPM circular type of saws, I would highly discourage doing that in the very beginning unless you can find a friend that can help you. You need to find somebody that is experienced that can help you with that, who is going to help you operate them and learn how to operate them safely, okay? If you don't have a friend or family member that can do that, you might be able to find a place that can teach you. Some of the big box stores offer some classes. There are some other type of woodworking shops like Woodcraft, and I'm not sponsored by anybody, that I do know offers classes. I have 3 that are within about an hour of the house each, and they all offer classes. I would highly suggest doing that. You can go out and watch YouTube. I have my students watch different videos on safety and operation of tools, and they watch me before they get to use them. But watching and getting the feel and understanding what they're going to do, especially if you make a mistake with them, is very important, okay? And it's very different than just watching. So that's my safety advice if you're going to get into that. So again, got to think about what you want to make. And I would start off on working some things that are safe, the less expensive, going to get the skills up. So in this next segment here, coming up, right after this one, we're going to talk about some cutting tools. But because before you can join anything, you got to be able to change the size and scope of that wood to be able to join it. And in order to do that, you've got to cut something. So stay tuned in the next video. I am Tim. I am the Average Woodworker, and I'm going to show you some tools coming up. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe. I got to have that. Please like and subscribe.